Hello everyone, welcome to the SAP Fiori-side chat. My name is Eugen Winchell and I'm with the SAP UX Product Management team, and I'm joined by my co-host Keith Fisher. Good morning, Keith.
Good morning, Eugen. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Today's topic for the SAP Fiori-side chat is the SAP Mobile Strategy. We have invited an awesome round of experts for a panel discussion, and in today's panel we have with us Bill Clark, Josh Bentley, Josh Waddell, Kevin Musick, and Santosh Kikeri. Welcome, everyone. And to make it truly interactive, we invite all of you to ask questions and comment during our chat. And before we get started, we wanted to set a few ground rules, and over to Keith for that.
The favorite part of the chat, at least for me. So the ground rules are very simple, right? We are focusing on SAP UX and UX related topics. We're not trying to sell you anything. We're not collecting your information either. We are part of a larger ecosystem, so we have partners as well as customers here. We just ask you to refrain from sharing anything outside of SAP UX topics. This information is recorded and we do share it out on a YouTube channel. And if you're not familiar with our format here on Zoom, there's a couple bubbles across the bottom of the screen. One is the chat window. If you open that up, you could ask questions and say hello, and in fact, introduce yourselves. We'd like to know who you are. You will also see a bubble that's related around Q&A, and so we use that bubble to ask questions and have them answered, hopefully during the live chat. Sometimes it takes a little time to get to you, but please be patient. We try to weave in every question that we can. And so without further ado, I'd like to go ahead and turn over to our panelists, each for some introductions. Let's start with you, Bill. Let's welcome back.
Hi, everybody. Yes, thanks. I think we did one of these Fiori-side chats back in April, so it's nice to be back to give an update, as we stated back then, on the mobile strategy. I head up mobile strategy within the SAP UX group, and I'll turn it over to Josh, I guess, next.
Josh Waddell. Welcome.
Hey folks, thanks for having me. I've Josh Waddell, been with SAP 15 years, always in and around mobile and kind of emerging technology. So thanks for having me.
Welcome. Josh Bentley, welcome.
Hey, thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. I'm located outside of Philadelphia, but born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia. So grew up down there, moved up here, joined SAP in 2007. So much like my friend Josh Waddell, and focused on developer advocacy. So I'm a developer advocate covering things like mobility, AWS, developing with new tools like SAP's Schema and Gardener. So very excited to talk mobile and how everything ties into SAP's ecosystem.
That's great, and welcome. So Kevin Musick, welcome to the chat.
Hey, I'm with SAP for 5 years now. I started out as a mobile developer, mainly focused on iOS, transitioned into developer advocacy. I'm doing mobile and Kubernetes there.
Terrific, welcome. And Santosh, good to see you back.
Absolutely.
Introduce yourself. Yeah.
Excited to be back on the panel. I'm Santosh Kikeri. I'm based in Palo Alto. I'm a product manager at SAP Design Organization. And I look forward to pushing the envelope on the design languages for SAP Fiori for iOS and Android.
That's great, welcome.
Okay. Let's get started with the first question. So Bill and Josh, so you guys recently updated the mobile strategy. Can you give us an update, like what's new?
Yeah, we would be very glad to do that. I've pulled up a couple of slides here to go over. But first, we are very interested in our innovation coming from the outside in. And I'd like to turn it over quickly to Josh to have him talk a little bit about one of our most recent customer stories. So over to you, Josh Waddell.
Yeah, thanks. I always think it's fun to start these conversations with some real world examples. So we wanted to talk briefly about Maple Leaf Foods. So Maple Leaf is near and dear to my heart because they are one of the largest bacon production companies in North America. But they are a terrific SAP customer, a longtime customer, and they started to look for productivity gains on the shop floor with us, and they looked at how they could mobilize their shop floor. They chose the Fiori SDK for iOS to develop an app, and they actually went from kind of starting the project to fully live and functional within 5 months. I think it's a real relevant story now, right? Because we're all coming to you live, social distancing from our home offices. You know, I think it's certainly interesting, but you know, in the case of Maple Leaf, I mean, they're essential service, right? They're with essential workers, essential employees, and they run right now with a hashtag on Twitter, making food people need, and I think that's very relevant and you know, it timely for our discussion, because we often look at mobility as a way to increase productivity, and certainly that does happen, and that was the initial drive behind the Maple Leaf deployment. And Maple Leaf has always had food safety as a top priority, but you know, sustainability, food safety, supply chain safety has taken on new meanings in the past few months, right? And certainly their employee health is front and center and critical. So when they looked at how they're going to maintain operations in this socially distant world, at being classified a essential service, mobile was a key part. So they immediately moved from shared iPads to individual iPads. And one of the, in food production, one of the you know, biggest ways to gain productivity going on and off the shop floor is through reducing as much possibility for contamination. So there's a decontamination process to go onto the shop floor and to go back into the office. And it can be a you know, bit of a lengthy process. So just by deploying mobile, they're able to reduce the time and you know, having productivity gains going through the decontamination process. But more importantly, I think they're able to reduce the overall risk at contamination. So it's interesting to see these little examples of how mobile are helping essential services continue, and you know, bring in new meaning to the word sustainability and supply chain. So in the case of Maple Leaf, they immediately rolled out this kind of one-to-one relationship with the iPads. They're doing great, and now they're kind of looking at you know, their planned innovations and to drive even more out of their mobile solutions. So they're looking at advanced indoor navigation, a lot of context-driven mobile usage. So you know, no more picking from lists. The UX will kind of adapt to where you are and what you're doing. Looking at the use of you know, deploying AR kit within their mobile application, so they can confirm that they're looking at the things that they actually think they're looking at. So it's interesting to see, and just wanted to kind of segue you know, into some of these stories and that we are watching. We are working directly with customers, and we hope that these types of stories are relevant and you'll see them in our mobile strategy. So back over to you, Bill.
All right, thank you, Josh. So, you know, the subtitle for this brief update, it's the new SAP user experience on mobile. So 2020 is shaping up to be quite a good year in terms of new apps coming out from SAP in various industries. And one of the things that's fascinating working in SAP and being in this position around mobile is all of the last mile experience. You know, you really have to walk in the shoes of the customers, of the end users for that last mile, and it gives you great insight as to what really makes a difference. And mobile is such a broad technology topic. It takes you know, teams within SAP and with our partners and with our customers to continue to evolve the story, to continue to evolve the ability to produce these solutions. So I'm just going to share for about 10 or 15 minutes here a few of the highlights of the update from the mobile strategy. The ink is drying on this. We just have had some reviews. And I'll start with kind of a standard disclaimer, which is, this is the standard SAP disclaimer, forward-looking statements, things about roadmaps are subject to change. And some additional, as Eugen and Keith mentioned, privacy is being honored in this presentation. So please hold that to your own and understand that those are the ground rules for the use of this content. So let's talk about user experience first. And so from Thomas Sarasig, our board member, where UX sits within product engineering at SAP, the quote is, user experience is the cornerstone of user productivity and satisfaction and adoption. And it's the most important factor in realizing customer value from the intelligent enterprise. So, let's click into that. If we look at some of our surveys, so some external data, one survey indicated 70% of CEOs are saying that user experience is a key facet of brand differentiation. We've also looked at a survey and a trend line where you have the importance of price and product and experience, and kind of looking a backwards look from around 1980 through 2020. And what we're seeing is that price and product have kind of oscillated between being the number one priority, and now it's kind of like table stakes. You expect a decent amount of functionality at a decent price, and the markets are competitive enough whether or not you're building things on your own or whether or not you're procuring stuff from a vendor like an SAP. It's a pretty, it's pretty well bounded. You don't have as many outliers from a price or a product point of view. So so then that begs the question, what is the differentiation? And it is in the actual adoption. We like at SAP to work closely with our customers to make sure that they're not only live, that things are rolling out through their organization and they're scaling. And if you have a product or an application that is difficult to use, if it's difficult to configure, if it's difficult from a designer and developer point of view, if it's difficult to extend, then that just slows everything down. And we believe that that will be a cornerstone. This UX trend is not going away, and that this will be a cornerstone of our overall SAP strategy going forward. So what does that look like? Our topic today is mobile. And so from that point of view, it's not just mobile first or mobile only. It's mobile and these days. And the and part you see kind of on the right-hand top there, it's mobile UX. It integrates with AI, with conversational platforms, with the ability to do quick updates, with the ability to create a mesh, to be the mesh that people are relying on. And the reason I use the term mesh is that you see the stat here that about 70% of software interactions in enterprises will occur on mobile devices by 2022. So if you look at that, it means that for the majority of time, for most users, this is a centerpiece towards how they're getting the information out of their enterprise systems. And so it also begs the question of, for that other 30%, what are they doing? Where are they going? When are they coming back? What are they doing in the physical world? What are they doing in the digital world? And this is something that Josh mentioned, the context awareness piece of this. So using the example from Maple Leaf Foods, what were they doing when they were away from their workstation? Right now, in many cases, they'll have their mobile with them. But it's by studying that and designing that and using our design thinking that we start to build kind of a cornerstone of our strategy, of the way SAP is approaching this. There's kind of a progression of the story here. So you have 70% of software interactions by 2022. By 2021, Gartner is predicting 70% of organizations are integrating AI in some way to assist employee productivity. It could be on the, in a lot of cases, it begins on the back end by doing analysis of trends in customer reports, in problem reports, in customer preferences and things like that. But increasingly with mobile, especially in the last couple of years with Apple making available the AI and the ML kit out on the edge, you're being able to do more out on the edge. And that is building on the fact that for offline, for native mobile applications, that was already kind of a sweet spot for mobile, right? Being able to do things offline, to have error checking, feedback, to have all the data that you need to do your job right there. So then you're really not reliant on the network. You can get your job done. So now with business rules engines, with the AI and ML on the device is getting just that much more powerful. And it just blows me away, the capabilities that the devices have these days. It's just the amount of raw computing power is it just still continues to amaze. Last but not least, the last Gartner quote from January this year, by 2025, 30% of enterprises will select a single enterprise-wide conversational platform. Now, platform is an overloaded term. I believe what they're meaning here is the platform, there's multiple platforms and an integration, and each enterprise will have their own instantiation of that. And that'll be leveraged not only for the front end for the customer service, but also for the employee effectiveness. So when I sit here with the view of what are we doing with our mobile strategy, these are the kinds of things that we're thinking about in our teams, and our colleagues on the line here today. We'll talk about the different aspects and the different facets that they're working on around this. So we've got this great opportunity, and the key word on this slide is can. Mobile can make the user experience frictionless, or if it's not done well, it might not. And that's the key here, is that there's a lot of, I talked about the raw horsepower on the devices, there's a lot of layering going on, right? Whether it's the databases being updated in the background, the core OS, the widgets on top and all of that, and getting it right takes a lot of thinking. And I'd like to share with you just real quick 3 pillars around the thinking in terms of getting it right with SAP. The first pillar of the mobile strategy and getting things right is work anywhere on anything. That's the fundamental piece. So every time there is a new operating system release, a new set of devices being released, new peripherals being introduced in the market, that's the automatic first step, which is let's just enable them. Are they coming along? Are they a step function? Are they an easy incremental add to the portfolio, to the library of devices that we have? And understanding also there that when they work anywhere on anything, they need to be trusted. So you have most enterprises and end users have a certain level of trust with the device manufacturer. And now we need to layer on top of that with SAP and with our partners, a level of trust of the data, of the privacy, and making sure that this all works. So you have a choice. If you're an enterprise, you can either build this on your own. You can put together and do best of breed on security, best of breed on app dev. And we allow you at SAP from a tooling point of view to do that. So if you're in a market niche, or if you have decided to differentiate in mobile by not using the core modules that come along from an SAP, we have an MDK and an SDK, and Santosh and others will talk about this, where you can build your own and do so in a secure way. And hopefully some of those assets that you bring along from SAP help you along the way in terms of security, in terms of reliability and trust. The second tenet of the mobile strategy is mobile masters multi-experience. So it was great to see last week, and maybe we'll have a part of our discussion when we open up here, Apple with WWDC, the new widgets, the ability to be even more creative in how interactions pop up and how users can quickly accomplish a task and then resume focus on what they're doing is just incredible. And one of the tenets that we're using at SAP is from a tooling point of view, with our SAP Cloud Mobile Services and the tools from there, and also from our design standpoint, our design thinking for the native mobile applications, is that it's an overall system and experience. And this is why the mobile COE sits within the user experience. It's all a part of one thing. The last piece is intelligent enterprise. So you've seen over the last couple of years, SAP talking about the X's and the O's. So if mobile masters multi-experience are the X's from a mobile strategy perspective, the O's are the operations, are the outcomes at the edge. And I mentioned before, it's amazing the amount of computing power now that we have in the devices at the edge. And so those are the three pillars of the strategy. The SAP Mobile UX, it begins with the seamless device support. So whether it's responsive web or native app experience, the bottom line is that we want to learn and leverage each different experience from the device point of view and make that a great experience regardless. It's built on Fiori. Fiori's been evolving now. It's hard to believe it's 7 years, but we have the elements there where we can give great experiences in browsers, on desktops, on mobile devices. So in our mindset, when we do design thinking with the apps that we're currently building, we're thinking of what are the transition points for those personas, for those workers in their natural day. And also as they go through various smart spaces, because really all of our spaces are smart. If you think about your current apartment or house, think about how many devices now, how many sensors there are that are just kind of slowly seeping into your everyday life. Same thing within the enterprise. This is an example where you're using point of sale and promotions and weather and holidays to make a prediction for the demand for certain products. And going to the SAP backend systems, you go and you see the on-shelf availability and the forecasts, and the store associates and the managers and the supply chain can then react to that. It's these kinds of guided outcomes that now can be layered on top of the SAP systems, the backend systems, and mobile plays a key role in these things. These are the applications and personas that we're currently working on. So the C-level, the customer guide is a great 360 view, a deep view of everything to do with a customer. One other one, the maintenance technician. So we just had an update on our enterprise asset management application in May. So some enhanced mapping, that continues to evolve and is involved in a lot of critical business cases. So that's kind of very high level of the update on the mobile strategy we promised back in April. So I'll just throw it back over to Eugen and Keith, and let's kick off the discussion. And if there's any questions on the line, happy to entertain those along the way. Definitely make this a conversation.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Bill. So Josh and Kevin, from your developer perspective, I know that you work with a lot of development guys. What's your take on the updated strategy piece?
Yeah, if we look at the WWDC, which was taking place last week, this is exactly what we're seeing there, right? We have ARKit 4 coming out now, which allows us to do with the new iPad Pros, really depth perception of those things we capture with those devices. They're using new sensors there. Same thing with machine learning. They added new functionality with the CreateML technology there, so you can train your machine learning models on your Mac and then just throw them into your app. And there's like on device, they have a new API in CloudKit, which allows you to dynamically exchange those core ML models inside of your app as you wish, because they evolve and you don't want to ship an update all the time. So we see those changes coming from the side of Apple, probably as well as from Google. So this this is the right step in the right direction. And we see that enterprises will get more intelligent on the mobile side, not only on the desktop or website. Business will transform there. And we see that like through the roadshows I did the last 2 years together with Apple. And we had Maple Leaves Foods in one of our enablement sessions in Montreal too. And we see all those customers and partners, they're all thinking about intelligent apps and thinking about those AI things and what they can do with it and how they can incorporate that. So from a developer perspective, we're definitely on the right side. We have the technology from a hardware perspective, and we have the APIs coming to fully leverage the power of those devices and bring business to the next level.
So I'll add to that. Kevin encapsulated a great story with referencing the roadshows he's doing and meeting with customers. And I've been actually with SAP for a while and met with customers after leaving our internal IT department. And we sometimes lose track of, we don't brag enough, but we have 100,000 employees globally. And we use things like Fiori and some of these design things in the SDK in our own apps that we roll out. And so when I'm out now meeting with customers or talking, now it's more virtual than in person, but I'm using things like my Fiori apps and launching into Ariba through a launchpad to purchase something, to do a webcam purchase. And that kind of experience is, we take it for granted. It's so easy for us now because it's as easy as checking our email, which was really the goal back, what was it, 7 years ago when Fiori launched, I think the slide said. It seems like everything was really hard to do on a mobile device. And now with the tools that we've enabled, and a lot of the customers that I meet with, we keep their mindset of, I may be a hardcore developer that wants full access to my tools and the stack and infrastructure as a service, or maybe I'm more of an end user that has a business problem and I don't want to develop. I want to use some quick off-the-shelf tools, maybe use the Copilot functionality or something else because I don't know how to develop. But we have this entire toolbox, this set of things that we bring to our customers and we also use internally. And I love to highlight that we take it for granted, but it is as easy as email for us now to open up our mobile devices and just function, which I love.
So you mentioned like it's as easy or as simple as opening your email. So what do customers actually say when they see that?
We're all friends here, right? So they don't think we did it. They think, where did you get this? This isn't SAP. Look, we know there's still a lot of customers out there. Everybody on this call knows that still use the GUI. So SAP GUI is still prevalent. And we have a lot of customers that haven't made the transition yet to S4. And so when they see me doing this, they don't believe that we've made this transition. They don't believe that we've done an entire transformation internally over this time period. When I joined, we had just acquired business objects. So we had changed our entire life cycle of being a back-end ERP company to a company that needs to function on these mobile devices. So they're amazed. And then they want to understand, okay, lift the hood, show me how you did it. And we bring architects in and we do whiteboards. And then we learn that their back-end systems are completely different than our back-end systems. And that's where we rely on the partner network and other things to really go deep in their use cases and find out what is customized, what can be transitioned, and what can't be transitioned to a mobile use case.
Great.
And kind of speaking to that, I mean, from a toolkit perspective, Santosh, what's happening on your side in terms of the SDKs that are doing, how they've evolved, what's new?
Absolutely. So as Josh kind of alluded to tooling, as well as Bill did in his strategy talk as well. I think the last couple of weeks has been truly exciting, especially around tooling, around the software development kit for iOS and Android and the design languages. We had Sapphire a couple of weeks back, and then there was WWDC. This is typically the time frame where we also update our SDK. I'm definitely excited to kind of show some new things that we have added into our SDK. Just as a quick reminder, the updates to the SDK on the iOS side was just released. Go check out the latest SDK, play with it, and also the design guidelines page have been updated. On the Android side, we are going to update the SDK later this week. But today, as we have a great opportunity, I'm going to kind of give you a sneak preview on what to expect in the updates that are going to happen for the Android SDK as well. So without further ado, let me kind of share my screen. I hope you are able to see my screen.
Yes, we are.
Okay, so a few weeks back, I was on the panel. I did kind of go deep on the design languages for iOS and Android. So today, I'll just kind of recap that in a nutshell. we've tailored the experience of SAP user experience for both iOS and Android platforms. So we have the tooling both for iOS and Android, with the design languages and the SDK. And these are some of the new things that we are adding to the SDK on the iOS side. One of the component is around reporting end user issue, right? So we see that a lot of a lot of our end users would like to kind of directly communicate with the product team about what's working, what's not working, and we thought this is going to be a great addition. And in fact, all of these in fact, this new user experience will be part of the new S4 applications that Bill kind of talked about earlier. Some of the S4 applications that we are gonna launch this year will kind of directly take advantage of this component. And what's new is another great addition, right? So for example, if you have a new release of the mobile application, if you want to improve the first-time user experience, just show some of the key screens that you've added in the new release. So we kind of make it easy for your product teams to kind of feature some of the new additions into the mobile applications. And as always, our focus is on making sure that we provide you with all of the tools that are needed if you are building rich analytical applications to be able to kind of support multiple chart types. So we are making some great additions to the chart library, and we are kind of exposing some of the new chart types in the upcoming SDK. Signature capture form cell is going to be another good addition, especially in the context of capturing digital signatures for auditing purposes, or even for completing the workflow applications. We are bringing in this new control so that end users will be able to enter their digital signatures on the iPad or iPhone, be able to capture this. So we are exposing this new control out of the box. And I think Kevin did allude to some of the exciting developments from WWDC. One of the exciting announcement was how Apple is taking a fresh look at the home screen by bringing in widgets. And we are definitely excited, and we've started some of the design explorations on our end on how can we take advantage of some of the exciting announcements from Apple and bring those capabilities into our SDK. And couple of other additions. We are also working on image annotations and onboarding multi-users, especially in the context of, let's say, if these devices are being used on shop floor, it's not going to be used by one person. Rather, these devices are going to be shared in those settings. So how can we support multi-user onboarding flows, taking security and privacy into account? So we are designing some of the complex workflows as well. And quickly on the Android side, again, we are excited to bring some of the new chart types, horizontal bar chart, chart header. So these additions will happen later this week. Do watch out for it. And one of the nice additions will be also about the new timeline view that we are bringing into the SDK, especially if you want to see things in a chronological order with some sequencing. You can take advantage of the out-of-the-box control. And also we allow users to sort and filter objects. This is something that some of the customers were requesting. And as you can see on the screen, yeah, we are also bringing the signature capture form on the Android as well. And dark theme was supported on the iOS SDK since last year. So we are also bringing that addition on the Android side as well. Yeah, I think these are really some of the exciting updates we are bringing into our SDKs and the guidelines. Best way for you would be to go to the home pages of SDK. You can download them, and also you can go to experience.sap.com and check out all of the latest guidelines that are updated.
Thank you so much, Santosh. I mean, it looks like some really interesting stuff there. I'm curious, Josh and Kevin, how quickly are these types of features adopted, by customers and the partner network? I mean, is there pent up, demand for these things? Does it get through pretty quickly? How do you see it from a developer side when a release like this week is being done?
Just quickly coming back to the technology and to the UI, which is what was great about the SDK here at SAP is that we're really trying to keep up to date with the newest technologies Apple is releasing and Google is releasing. So for example, Swift UI is at a point right now where we can build a whole app with Swift UI. Like we don't really need UI kit anymore. We could use Swift UI. Our SDK is adapting Swift UI. Our SDK is recreating controls in Swift UI, which makes it easier for non-iOS experts to build apps with that, because it's a declarative language, it's really easy to use, really easy to read, and the system takes care of performance and all those kind of things, right? Which is amazing. For example, the charts you saw, they're available completely as Swift UI controls, and you can just throw them in and they work and they render and they're beautiful. And that's with all the technologies which are coming out. We're adapting them and we're making them easy to be used by our developers and customers out there.
Yeah, Keith, I'll add to that what happens is Swift, right, is a great language, and now with Kotlin being adopted more than Java on the Android devices, Kotlin, sometimes I call it, Swift, and Java had a baby, and then you get Kotlin. So the customers aren't always begging for these new features. They aren't always coming to us and saying, you need to put this in your SDK. What's happening is their user base. There's a bunch of people that are getting a push down notification from their device manufacturer saying, update your code. I just released this great new OS. And then the IT security team has to go and analyze it and see if it's ready to be actually adopted by their entire user base. And so now the app may or may not work that they had custom built. And so when you have standards and repeatable procedures from an SDK that you can include, it saves you some of that heart attack of having to go back and rebuild an app that broke that a bunch of your users have adopted and love to use. So I consider it more of an insurance policy to have great standards and policies in place.
Right. It sounds like one of the challenges that a lot of customers have is that the resources available to build these applications are they're all ABAP developers now, right? And what kind of programs are out there to support these developers, and and the language is getting easier? Are they actual programs to help onboard and cross-train developers that might exist out there? What are you doing on that front?
So I'll talk real quick about our tutorials, and then Kevin, if you could jump in about some other open SAP courses. But we go to developers.sap.com and promote the tutorials that are out there for all the code that we've been talking about today, the SDKs, different things with Fiori. You can actually do some things with Copilot. There's mobile cards, and these are just simple steps that you can do on a free server, free trial, go through and test the code out, and then you can market that inside your development team. And then Kevin can maybe talk about some things like Open SAP that I know we have courses out there as well.
I don't know if we still have it, but we used to have an iOS Open SAP course. But on the other side, if you want to get into mobile technologies, like the internet is full of information there. From our side, from the developer advocacy side, I mean, we all have like our YouTube channels, and we put out videos where we explain like smaller things. I have a complete series where I explain the basics of Swift, because that, you just said, we have a lot of ABAP developers, and that was a wish there. So I did like a whole series of videos explaining the basics of Swift. Those kind of things are out there. But I just got to say, Apple is putting out a ton of free books and learning materials. Stanford University is putting out mobile development classes for Android and iOS for free. There's a lot out there to learn the basics of that technology. When it comes to the specifics of our SDKs, as Josh mentioned, we have our developer website. This would be probably the best entry point to get started, and with everything there. Like, I mean, if you're interested in how do I do push notifications with mobile services, it's on there. If you're interested in how do I do on-device machine learning, it's on there. Like, this is the best entry point for you to pick a topic you're interested in and trying it out. And also, if you have questions, I mean, if you have a problem with the tutorial, you just open a question that goes directly to me and Josh, and then you get an answer. So that's a really great point to get started with these technologies.
Yeah, that's really cool.
I'd like to build on that a little bit. So I'll share, building on the resources there for also reminding folks that for the Mobile Center of Excellence, we have a partnership with Apple. I don't know if my screen's being shared now. So this partnership with Apple, so you can start and try things out in a very agile, quick way. We're also, and this is an invitation to join us, we're working directly with Apple in co-developing some of the applications that we show earlier in the talk today. So we have the Apple Enterprise Design Lab that's hosted at SAP, and we have our Mobile Center of Excellence. We have, along with our UX colleagues, somewhere around 8 to 10 sites worldwide. We have 3 main design centers, Waldorf, Munich, and Chicago, where we have application developers and designers. So that's the kind of the next level. So you can kind of step into the engagement with SAP. And if you'd like to, it's an honor to work with the Apple team. And in fact, Josh Waddell heads that up for us. So he's the lead. I don't know, Josh, if you want to talk a little bit about how to get engaged with the Apple Enterprise Design Lab for the folks.
Yeah, I mean, Apple's a great partner, and certainly they've you know, I spoke of Make Believe Foods earlier in the call, and that was an effort led by the Apple Enterprise Design Lab. Typically, we do that. We host it at one of our centers, but we have adjusted, right? So we can do things today. We have virtual formats. It's you know, a little. It's not ideal sometimes to have to sit through a bunch of Zoom conference calls, but it works. It actually really works. And actually, this is a really good time to rethink not just the technology, because I think probably if you've joined this call and certainly by the panelists here, we all sit around and think about technology all the time. So we're always thinking about what, you know, on-device intelligence could do, but rethink the business process, right? Because what we've seen in the virtual sessions that we've done is that people have paused, and it's given them time to maybe rethink the way they've always done things. So, you know, certainly this is available today. We're doing it virtually, and we're doing it together with Apple. So if there is an interest, please reach out.
That's awesome. Hey, Santosh, you wanted to chime in as well.
Yeah, just on the previous topic, one of my favorite tool to learn more about the SDKs is the Fiori Mentor App. We can share the link later. Some of the customers, you know, they've just said that's the best way to browse all of the capabilities of the software development kit. And you can browse the control, you can preview the control, you can configure, you can customize, and you can also kind of, you know, export the code snippet and copy that directly into your development project. So it's oftentimes you know, accelerates your design and development process. So that's kind of, you know, one of the nice tools that you can really use to get started today.
And in addition to that, just a side note, Swift Playgrounds will soon be able to embed frameworks, like XC frameworks, which our SDK is. So now you can just use Swift Playgrounds, throw that framework in, and just try out some more data without building a whole app, right? You can just like go in, try out like 1 or 2 code snippets, you know, from the documentation or whatever. You want to see what it does. You can do that now. And that's pretty cool too. I mean, that's an easy way to get started trying out the technology.
Right. Yeah, I think, you know, when we were, so maybe to kind of pivot to a little slightly bigger picture, when we were listening to Christian Klein, he was talking about the focuses here for the company being on integration, agility, and innovation, right? And I'm hearing stories of each of these things and what we're talking about today. Luis Torres spoke a little bit about, you said the topic of embedded AI has come up in native apps briefly today. Do we see use cases about conversational AI in the mobile space? And if so, what's the status of that capability?
I can take a first stab at that. Certainly the conversational AI, the work that we've accomplished with SAP Copilot and the progress that was made around those, we're continuing to look at the learnings from that and figuring out how to integrate that so that it is a web of conversations. So for example, if you're in the context in a mobile app and you don't really want to exit that, but maybe you want to have an assistant pull up one piece of data through a bot. Those are the kinds of use cases that we're looking at, and that's why it's so exciting when you see these abilities to do some of the quick widget the app clips, the kinds of things that Apple's coming up with, gives us just all kinds of different ranges of opportunity to integrate the conversational part of the experience with what's traditionally been the mobile piece. So stay tuned for that, and that's definitely a part of the ideation lab work that we're doing here in July and August.
That's cool. Any other innovations that folks are really looking forward to at this point that you're hearing? Maybe Josh and Kevin.
I'll add, so I'm wearing a shirt today, Kima, right? So this is an open source logo, and people may not realize SAP's developer network of the ABAPers all the way through to the people playing with Kubernetes. We're here and we're embracing it. So we're not just talking about Apple code and their design policies as things that are standards that we want to follow. We want to adapt them, but also bring the other people that are coding with the open source community into our ecosystem. So everybody's talking about the same thing at the same time, which is how do I develop these new features, these bots, these AIs that are going to make my users happy? How do I get all of that combined into one ecosystem? Because developers are coming in from everywhere with all these new tools, but they also want their business apps to work at the same time. So we're really excited to be able to showcase that we use these technologies. We talk about things like the Kubernetes ecosystem and the SAP NetWeaver ecosystem at the same time.
So maybe a question from my side, like you guys have like presented, like you want to be where the user is, I would put it in my words. Some users are in business applications like S4HANA. We've seen like from the strategy that there will be dedicated mobile apps for that. Some people are actually in platforms like Microsoft Teams, Slack. What do you see in terms of like integration into these chat platforms from a business perspective? So to say like I have S4HANA, let's say capabilities in those chat platforms. Is there anything happening there?
So my first crack at that is to talk about extensions, because we always want to have extensions happen and have API calls being managed between the S4 systems where we need to send data from one place to another place. And it might be that we want to then have a notification go out on Slack and say, someone just did a workflow approval and this team should know about it. Or in the old days, it was a Fiori, a pop-up, a badge, the little red number 1 will show up on your app. But now everybody is working so much in these chat tools like Slack and other places in Microsoft Teams, and they want everything combined in one place where they don't have to then go out and manage a bunch of API control systems. They have a central plane somewhere where everything is being managed so that the mobile devices and the desktops are all talking to the same backend system points through general API calls that are standardized.
Very cool. Any other ideas around innovations or anticipations that you're having here as we get into the year and our new reality?
Yeah, just coming back to conversational AI real quick. When you think about use cases, it's relatively simple to come up with a use case. Right now, if you download like apps, doesn't matter which one, like Comcast, Telecom, whatever, as soon as you have an issue, you want to open a support ticket, there's no way to call a person anymore. Most of the time, you talk to some machine, which is conversational AI, which is great, right? And most of the time they can help you, but think of outside of just a support kind of thing, right? Just imagine like your business. You have like a retail shop and you have an online presence as an online shop. And now what does your customer do, right? Usually he comes into the shop and he says, I want those shoes, or I want that, please show them to me, explain stuff about them, or a wine shop or something like that, You can replace that. You can build a conversational AI now, and then they open up your app, they can go in and say, oh, I'm interested in coffee, and I like, if it's a little bit stronger, a little bit more dark and like robust, and the bot can give you a great coffee recommendation, right? There's no need to talk to anyone anymore, wait in a phone line or whatever. Like there's this conversational AI piece, and that can really help you find whatever you're looking for if we're talking retail. Of course, we can do that in maintenance. We can do that in professional apps as well, right? Sometimes you're out there and you don't really know, oh, I forgot how to fix that. I mean, you could pop up a conversational AI and say, hey, I'm sitting here. This is my situation right now. Maybe combine it with machine learning where you can take a picture, right? And it analyzes the piece, and it knows what it is. And then it gives you recommendations on how to do it, or like sends you like a video where you can see, okay, this is how I got to do it. So we really got to see it as an assistant helping us solve problems we have. And those problems can be all sorts of things. This cannot only be support or give me a PDF with information. That can be all sorts of things. And that's really what we got to keep in mind with all those new technologies coming up and being more established is try thinking outside of the box. Like try see it as an opportunity to make your application really, really smart and make the life of your user really easy. And that's the main goal of mobile applications or of any software piece. Make the life of your user easy. And then the user is happy and productivity will go up and people will buy more in your stores, those kind of things.
Yeah, and I'd like to build on that. So the productivity goes up, but if you think about that first quote from Thomas Saueressig, the other piece of it is the satisfaction piece. And an interesting study that stuck with me, and actually I've seen this in multiple studies around field service, is that there have been times where as you push out more mobile technology and more automation, a pushback that you get from the end user community is they feel isolated. So yeah, there's no need to talk to anyone. Well, they were relying on learning, for example. So I remember one study of a utility in Europe, and they were really missing the mentorship from the older engineers to the younger engineers that happened during the coffee time when they would drive back. And this was a while back when they were still using a lot of paper, right? And it was kind of a hybrid thing where some things were mobile devices, some things were paper. So one of the things with conversational platforms, and also with a couple of the apps that we described here today, the Project Companion and the Customer Guide app, that are applications that are dashboards giving executives and managers a view of the business. It's also a great leverage point for mobile technology for them to be available. So a great example in field service is the See What I See, the over-the-shoulder advisor. And Kevin was talking about that. So if you're out there and you're a new technician, and maybe with the technology you're not getting as much stick time, it's very powerful to be able to click over and say, hey, to either a supervisor or to a more senior colleague, to say, hey, look at this. I don't get this, right? And then in that bag of tricks, you also may have increasingly things like AIs that can analyze. So a classic one, for example, in some industries, they've learned that certain equipment should sound a certain way. And because they interviewed the technicians, and they would start a device up, and the technician would immediately shut it off and say, wow, there's something wrong. I've been working on these for years and there's just something wrong. So with AI, that's a case where now the AIs can do that. So now a part of a mobile app would be, okay, now you have as a checkpoint to take the device, turn it on, and have it listen to it. And it may pick up subtleties that the human doesn't pick up. And the same thing goes for vision systems. There may be things that the device could help you pick up that you wouldn't pick up, especially if you're earlier in your career and you don't have as much experience. So it's that weaving of the productivity and the satisfaction and the enhancing the overall game that's really exciting. It really takes the whole game up another notch.
So Bill, maybe towards you, because you mentioned the available and planned native apps. Do you have a list or like an overview page where people can look that up?
Yeah, absolutely. So these are in the midst of being published. Most of these are published now, these links, and we'll be following up this Fiori-side chat with these. I believe with the exception of maybe the new mobile apps for 2020, these are live. And in fact, I think that one is live as well. So yes, there's a summary. I showed the slide with about 15 or 20 apps, the new ones, where you can get a good feel for what they are. In fact, you can, I believe with almost all of them, you can download them now. They have demo modes. If you're interested in a particular app, the mobile asset management apps, it has the latest update there. There's a Project Companion link that is a video of that application being used. We've got the 2 customer stories that we talked about earlier. And then if you want to take a step back and look at the bigger picture for SAP UX, we've got our Fiori product page and our topic page in the SAP community. And this is kind of a subset. We'll keep flowing these out as we have more Fiori-side chats. These are just part of the assets, but these are the ones that have been updated most recently that we wanted to highlight.
Great. Hey, thank you, Bill. I wanted to make sure we capture Louise's last question here around key usability tools like UI Theme Designer or UI5 technology. Are these available for native mobile applications as well? Can you actually take, Theme Designer and apply it to native mobile apps?
I mean, Keith, maybe I'll go, and then Kevin, feel free to kind of chime in. So Theme Designer is not available for native mobile apps, but what we do provide like bunch of guidance on the color palette, especially the usage of primary and accent colors. So do check out like our guidelines page, and we also kind of support the dark mode since last year after the announcement in the WWDC. But we don't really support Theme Designer for mobile. Kevin, feel free to kind of chime in.
Yeah, there's no tool where you can magically open up the app and pick and choose the colors you want. But with Swift UI, it's relatively easy to theme your app the way you want it to look like. If you want it to be green instead of blue, it's not a big deal. It's a line of code in the beginning of your app, so it's you don't have to write a CSS file or something like that. Like you would in the web. Like it's literally just change the tint color, and then it changes the color in your app. I mean, and then you can go in, and if you say, okay, this has got to be red instead of blue, and this got to be like green, like you can dive in and change the things the way you want them to be. And with Swift UI, it's going to be actually even easier. And so I bet the more that the technology evolves, the more magic we will get sooner or later.
So we're coming to the end of the chat, and Bill, I know you have a slide where you wanted to do some recap, right?
Yeah, just a bit. In fact, I think some of the conversations captured it. So I'll just summarize to say we are very interested in partners and customers reaching out to us to engage with things like the Apple Enterprise Lab, and very excited to delve deeply into the industry use cases and look at them all the way through. So we have some bandwidth available for that. So please reach out to us through this format, and really appreciate the opportunity to share the update.
Great, absolutely. So first of all, thanks everyone for coming today to the panel. It was a great discussion on mobile. And for the audience, actually, let me quickly share my screen. For the audience, if you have missed any of the previous sessions or would like to actually see any of the previous sessions, we have a tiny URL link with tinyurl.com/SAP-Fiori-side-chat. You can find all the recordings of the previous sessions there, the agenda for the next week's session, as well as all the login information. And really, thank you very much for being with us, and see you all soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.